Welcome and thank you for joining me here once again on Film Pro Productivity. Each week I introduce concepts that film professionals and other creatives can use to make life easier and avoid creative burnout. I also present time management and lifestyle hacks for a more focused, effective and happy life. My name is Carter Ferguson and this is episode 23, Killing the Microwave Mindset. Yes, today's show is all about killing the microwave mentality or the microwave mindset and replacing it with something much more realistic. If you can understand the concepts that I'll be raising here today and apply them to your life and work, and particularly to your skill set and long-term goals, then somewhere down the line they will deliver massive and impactful results. I'll get into that a bit more in a minute, but if your head has ever been filled with one single thought or a string of thoughts or even a memory of something you just can't change that just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating itself, then you have been suffering from rumination. In the last episode, I tackled this damaging affliction which kills creativity and sucks away your energy, and I offered up some solutions to help you beat it. For those of you that took on the call to action, I hope that it's made a difference. And don't forget that you can always update me with how you're getting on or even offer up new topics for future episodes via the official website, filmproproductivity.com's contact page. You can also catch me on Twitter at FilmProProdPod or on Facebook at FilmProProductivity. I do like hearing from you on this sort of thing, and of course, if you missed last week's episode, please do check it out. Before I get on to the subject of today's show in detail, let me set this up a bit by defining a term that you might never have heard before. It's detailed in the urbandictionary.com and it is microwave mentality. It means having the attitude that if something can't be done in 5 minutes or less, it's just not worth doing. It's a kind of a blight in the modern world, and it's a mindset that's becoming quite prolific. James Randi once said that the new age, that's now by the way if you're wondering, is just the old age stuck in a microwave for 15 seconds, and I think I see his point. I really don't want to sound like I'm dissing these people, but if you want an analogy to represent this problem, then here it is. It's one I've used before, and I'm only 23 episodes in and I'm reusing analogies last week as well. But once or twice a month, not a year, a month, I get a message from someone, usually a karate champion, saying that they want to be a fight director and that they will help me, in inverted commas, and I don't ask or need any help, by the way, but they'll help me for free if I can get them work and get them on set as a fight director or as an assistant. And I'm usually like, well, what do you know about drama? And almost always the answer is nothing, but that they are willing to learn. In my experience, though, that's not quite true. Now, I used to try and help people like this, but now I just don't. The first reason is helping create a competitor when there's so little work about would be utterly mental. Secondly, because most people want to be a fight director as it sounds cool and don't care enough about what it entails to ever be any good at it. And thirdly, because in my experience, most of these people are willing to give it maybe a few hours, up to perhaps, and I'll push the boat out here, as much as a day. Then they want the same rates, the same respect, and the same profile that I have with 800 credits and 24 years of blood, sweat and tears behind me. And if I did try to help them, you're almost guaranteed that within a week of working with me, the words fight director will appear on their social networks. And some of these people might even make it, and I wish them well, but this sort of microwave mentality is not based in any form of reality. I spent 7 years learning dramatic combat techniques under the tutelage of a fencing master, founder member of the Society of British Fight Directors and Olympic fencing coach, Professor Bert Bracewell, BAF. Over the course of a few months, we learned hand-to-hand combat. Then we learned fencing skills in foil and sabre. Then I personally went on to épée and coaching skills in all the weapons with the British Academy of Fencing. And beyond that, I moved on to a variety of new weapons with Professor Bracewell, like rifle and bayonet, sword and shield, rapier and dagger, trident and net, as well as things like fight notation and more administrative things to do with it. You name it, I covered it. But at the same time, during all of that, I was learning about drama with a 3-year acting course and years of commitment to learning at Scottish Youth Theatre. Frankly, I'm still learning about it now through my own experiences, both negative and positive. Getting good at something, anything, takes time. But we all wish and maybe even try to go for the fast and furious route to the top rather than slow and steady. Today's episode could have been called Slow and Steady Wins the Game, but let's face it, it's not as dramatic as killing the microwave mindset. The life coaching demigod Tony Robbins says don't live in no man's land, that place where you're not really happy, but you're not unhappy enough to do anything about it. Don't passively accept what comes your way. Drive your life towards what you really want. Taking pot shots at the life you want to gain or the goals that you are trying to achieve just won't cut it. You need to be consistent. We must break the microwave mindset with reality. In the words of Darren Hardy, small choices plus consistency plus time equal significant results. When you suffer from a microwave mindset, all you can think of is instant gratification. We need to accept that this just isn't a reality. And I'm not just talking about the millennial mindset to which this accusation is often levelled. In this age of microwave meals, fast food, social networking, internet answers to any question right at hand, Netflix movies and Amazon dropshipping, the mindset of must have it now is spreading far and wide. Darren Hardy goes on to say that the first step towards change is awareness, and the best way to become aware is to measure. Writing it all down is key. There's two theories that I want to introduce you to here that may help you to disrupt any microwave mentality that you think you might have. I'll talk about front-loading in a few minutes, but first off, let's discuss compounding. The Compound Effect is a book by Darren Hardy which breaks down the power of compounding for use in day-to-day life. It explains how the term can be attached not only to monetary gain but to that of skill learning and achieving your goals. The compound effect is the strategy of reaping huge rewards from small, seemingly insignificant actions. Mark Twain said that progressive improvement beats delayed perfection. Moving forward towards your vision in progressively improving increments will take you much further than waiting for the perfect moment to start, or indeed cramming in a load of effort in one day and then giving up. What's most interesting about this process, though, is that even though the results are massive, the steps in the moment don't feel significant. Whether you're using this strategy for improving your health, relationships, finances, or anything else, the changes are so subtle they're almost imperceptible. These small changes offer little or no immediate result. Most people get tripped up by the simplicity of the compound effect. For instance, they'll quit after the 8th day of running because they're still overweight, or they'll stop practicing the piano after 6 months because they haven't mastered anything other than chopsticks, or they stop making contributions to their ISA after a few years because they could use the cash, and it doesn't seem to be adding up to that much anyway. What they don't realise is that these small, seemingly insignificant steps completed consistently over time will create a radical difference. A very simple example of the compound effect is the saying, "You can't run before you can walk," because the procedural memory built while learning to walk is necessary before you can start to learn to run. Pronouncing words is impossible without first learning to pronounce the vowels and consonants that make them up. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time will deliver a radical difference to the results that you seek. The book, The Compound Effect, goes far beyond this in its scope, and I'll likely have to tackle it in another episode. But for now, I'll leave it there. If you want to read it though, I'll put links to it in the show notes. Abraham Lincoln's possibly greatest ever quote, and he has a few of them, is, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." And that nicely sets up the second concept for dealing with the microwave mentality, front-loading, that of focusing your efforts at the beginning of a task. The connection for me is very apparent. The earlier you start making changes, the more the compound effect works in your favour. There is a distinct connection between these two systems. Front-loading, though, is simply a productivity tactic for accomplishing more tasks at the beginning of a goal's life. I apply the term specifically to that of learning skills, usually in combination with the compound effect I talked about a minute ago. Despite our very best efforts, we all know that it's way too easy to get off track given the very busy lives that we lead. So front-loading encourages us to schedule our most important tasks at the beginning of the process. Creativity blog 99U says spend less time worrying about planning exactly how long every activity will take to do, and more time front-loading your calendar by putting your most important activities and deadlines early in the day and early in the week. For example, something due on Friday should start appearing in your schedule by Tuesday afternoon, and your amount of planned to-do items should decrease from Monday to Friday, with ideally little to no to-do items on Friday at all. Tied in with this is something called the 50% solution, a productivity technique which I think applies particularly well to those of us in the creative world, and it goes along with the idea of front-loading very well. The 50% solution is the act of getting the whole goal done, but to only a 50% standard or quality of work, and then perfecting it at a time when it will give you a measurable result, perfecting it with a series of revisions at your leisure. You quite quickly get over the hurdle and the stress of having an incomplete task on your to-do list, and then you polish it up. I applied for a writing residency place in January of this year. I've yet to know if I'm in or not. Probably not. Never get into these things. But anyway, I applied for this place and I used this system to get me going. The deadline was the 25th of January, so I scheduled in my diary to submit it by the 23rd. But I front-loaded the vital parts of the application and accompanying materials to be completed a week before that. By doing this, I not only submitted on time, I submitted with my second, third and even fourth drafts of parts of the application form rather than my first and least strong attempt. The fact that they then extended the deadline by another 6 weeks made my heart fall, I have to be honest, but I knew I'd given it my best shot by the 25th. There's another productivity technique in play here, which is one of my favourites. It's based on something called the lean startup, and it's a business principle that says if you want to start, say, a bakery, that you don't want to start on day one selling everything, selling your cookies, bread, rolls, and, donuts. You start on day one selling just the donuts. You sell donuts for a few weeks, and you talk to the customers, and you see if they want something new. What might that be? And during the few weeks of business where you're just selling donuts, you've learned how to make donuts even better, even cheaper, and even quicker. And you've also learned that your customers mostly want cookies. So you start making cookies, and you sell them next to the donuts, and you see how it goes. And because you're not worrying about the donuts, since you've mastered that skill and that business model, you can put all of your efforts into perfecting the cookies. If you get where I'm going with all of this, you work hard to perfect one skill and research one area before you start on the next. What you don't do is try to do it all at once, mess the whole thing up, overstretch your resources, and learn new skills that you just don't need. I really think that the lean startup is just an amazing concept, and when you try and apply that to the creative world, I think it sits quite well, because like me, I've got cameras I'd like to understand how they fully work, not just how to switch them on, not just how to get focus, not just the basics, but actually really genuinely getting the best out of these cameras takes effort, takes time. Same with editing software. I'm moving from Premiere to DaVinci Resolve. I've got to get into that. I've got to spend time on it. I've got to do it. I can't do it all at once though, because I'm also doing a podcast. I've got 2 films have been in touch wanting me to do stuff. I've got to be careful that I don't get caught up in that multitasking episode that I had earlier on. But the lean startup, that whole principle allows you to go, I'm just going to do this bit for a while and get it right. And once it's right, then you move on to the next one. It's a really great system. And it is a book. It's a book by Eric Ries, or Rice, R-I-E-S. Rice? Eric Rice. I had to stop recording there and go and look that one up because I went on such a tangent to do with the lean startup. But I do love the whole concept of it. I think it's amazing. Anyway, where was I? Front loading. Yes, you could use front loading, for example, for daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly goals as well. You can plan for the week on Sunday, for example, and get out of the blocks strong on Monday, accomplishing as many of your weekly tasks as possible in the first few days of the week. You can start out the first week of every month very strong as well. For your greater life goals, try to make the first month of the quarter a big one as well. This approach takes a lot of discipline though, but does wonders for stress reduction and productivity. I've front-loaded my schedule of production for this podcast too, by the way. I'm launching 12 episodes, with the first being released on the 24th of February, but I'm aiming to have 10 episodes already batch recorded by the 11th. This allows me to go back and refine them before launch. It also leaves plenty of time for me to create the marketing resources that are required for the social networking that accompanies the show. When I launch on the 24th, I'll have all of them recorded and I won't have to worry that I can't meet my schedule. If you want to try front-loading on your own tasks and goals, then here's a few tips to help you along the way. First, start with the end in mind. I'll say that again. Start with the end in mind. Start with your long-term goal and then work backwards. Write down your quarterly, monthly, weekly and daily goals as well as the tasks necessary to get you there. These process goals, as I'm calling them, are landmarks that you can tick off so you know you are moving forwards. When I finish this episode, I will go through to the whiteboard and I will tick off Season 2, Episode 7 on my whiteboard, and I'll know that I only have 5 to go. It's really, really great for your drive. Secondly, determine what is truly important. Prioritise those activities and do them first. The other stuff can wait. And that's episode 3 of this podcast, so go back and have a listen. It's such a key part of productivity that I cannot stress it enough. Get an early start is the third thing. If you get up an hour earlier than your competition every day and do something productive, you will have a 300-hour advantage over the course of a year. Think about how much can be accomplished with 300 extra hours. Fourthly, don't multitask. It drives down performance and wastes time. Look back at episode 10 for a full episode on that topic. And fifth, just getting started often results in completing an important task. And again, I'll say look back to episode 9 for advice on that one. Summing up here, I'd like to say that killing the microwave mindset involves waking up and realising that time is slipping through your fingers. Follow the advice of American author H. Jackson Brown Jr., who says, "You must take action now that will move you towards your goals and develop a sense of urgency in your life." One of the known traits of highly productive people and successful people, companies and countries, and a trait which makes the difference between the average and the superior performers out there, is commonly known to be that they have developed a sense of urgency. If you want to move away from the microwave mentality and reap huge rewards from small, seemingly insignificant actions, then you need to start now and strategize your way ahead. It's advice that flows from the productivity world from virtually everywhere I look. Bob Proctor says everyone should have a sense of urgency. Les Brown says we have to live life with a sense of urgency so not a minute is wasted. And Ralph Marston says success requires both urgency and patience. Be urgent about making the effort and patient about seeing the results. Your call to action this week is to look at a goal, perhaps a skill that you want to learn, and schedule a realistic period of learning for it. If you want to learn a new editing software, for example, like I do, it could be an exercise regime for yourself or cooking or something else. It doesn't really matter, but schedule a couple of front-loading sessions, perhaps over a weekend for it, maybe 3 hours on each day, or more if you can handle it, but keep it realistic. Then schedule a month of 20-minute sessions each day for you to master it. Take the techniques that I've discussed here today and make them yours. I hope that this has been an interesting topic for you. I find it all absolutely fascinating, as you could probably tell when I went off on a massive tangent about the lean startup. But I present it to you here as I hope it'll be of interest to you too. Just beware of the instant fix or shortcut to your long-term goals. It's rarely a reality. Thanks yet again for choosing to spend your valuable time here with me, and as always, take control of your own destiny, keep on shooting, and join me next time on Film Pro Productivity. The music that you are listening to right now is Adventures by Ehumitsu. You can view the show notes for this episode on the official website filmproproductivity.com. You can follow my personal accounts on Twitter and Instagram at fight_director, or follow the show itself on Twitter at FilmProProdPod or on Facebook at FilmProProductivity. Thanks again for supporting the show by subscribing, spreading the word, and leaving an awesome review.